निरञ्जनं नित्यं अनन्तरूपं भक्तानुकम्पाधृतविग्रहं वै ईशावतारं परमेशमीड्यं तं रामकृष्णं शिरसा नमामः. Namaste and welcome to the 9th talk in the series Mind Management Techniques, wherein we are trying to explore the inner dimensions of what we really are. So far, we have been discussing using various metaphors and frameworks to explore the mental domain, the mind, what the mind is, how it functions. The idea is that we want to go beyond the mind to something what is called consciousness, which is our true essential nature. So, in the last talk, we talked about this consciousness as it was realized by Shri Ramakrishna, where he collected his vision that he had in the temple of Mother Kali in Dakshineshwar, wherein he said that he saw everything right from the image, the deity, the altar, the utensils for the worship, the floor, the tile floor, the walls of the temple, a cat, a person out there, all were pulsating and reverberating with this consciousness. That is the experience he had, and thereafter he saw that this whole universe, whatever it is, has come out of that consciousness. That divine consciousness is a living consciousness. It's not like an inanimate object or just light out of a lamp or something. It is alive, it's throbbing, it's pulsating, it's intelligent. And everything else that we experience in this world, whether it's a stone or a little insect or worm or animal or man, whether it's a small particle or this whole universe, is a manifestation of that consciousness. So he would say in his way, my Divine Mother, that consciousness he addressed as a living personality so that he could have a relationship with him. And he called it the Divine Mother. He said, my Divine Mother has become everything, the 24 cosmic principles and all living beings. To him, that was the greater reality, the fundamental reality, and everything else was created by that power, Srishti, was sustained by that power, Sthiti, and again everything merged back into that power, Vinasha. Srishti, Sthiti, Vinashanam, Shakti, Bhute, Sanatani. That's how in our daily prayers we worship that divine power. And so when we compare our experience to his experience, our everyday experience, what do we see? In everyday experience that we have, right from the time we get up in the morning, we see this world of names and forms. We see ourselves as a body. We feel there's a mind inside there that's doing certain things. We are a conscious being as separate from various things around us. But that's where it all stops. That means we are working and functioning in a narrow bandwidth. What Sri Ramakrishna had as a spiritual experience was that by the grace of, or through his prava and the grace of the divine consciousness, his mind ascended to a very high plane where this world of names and forms disappeared, so to say, or became very shadowy, but he could see something pulsating, permeating throughout that, both outside and inside. And that being which is creating all this universe, whether small things or the whole vast universe, that is a greater reality to him. So when Swami Vivekananda went to Sri Ramakrishna and asked him, have you seen God? He said, yes, I have seen him, but in a more real sense than I am seeing you right now. I am seeing you as a person through my eyes, but the other reality which is consciousness, to me that is a greater reality. Real means these names and forms are appearing and disappearing, but there is something behind it which is not changing. And that is the Supreme Brahman, the absolute pure consciousness, which is the head side of the tail, and that same power, when she is busy with creating, preserving, destroying the world, he called it the divine Shakti. And he said, these are the two sides of the same coin. So he had dived deep like a great scientist. Science is trying to find that highest common factor. A physicist is trying to find that particle out of which the whole universe has come, and he thinks he has found it, and he calls it the God particle, the Higgs boson or something. The chemist is trying to find some chemical out of which the whole thing has come. In other words, our attempt in search for knowledge is trying to find that highest generalization out of which everything has come. But in science, we limit ourselves to experiences through these five sense organs. And if the eyes can't see, ears can't hear, we try to improve that power by building some technology, instruments like microscopes, telescopes, or explode the atoms and things, but still we are trying to function through the five sense organs. So, because of that limitation, we can't go beyond that. This entity, which is called God or Bhagwan or Ishwar or Father in heaven or Allah, whatever, by different names we are calling him, is not a material thing. It's not part of this physical material world. This material world is an expression of that, but this is a very poor expression where the consciousness is palpitating, experiencing, I'm conscious, you are conscious, I'm talking, I'm thinking, you're able to understand. Better than maybe an insect or animal. The difference is that both of us are the same consciousness. In me, maybe it is manifested more, in others it's less, but it's same in all of us. So in a chair, that consciousness is also there. In a stone, that consciousness is also there. Only its manifestation is more or less. So if we forget about this manifestation aspect of it and just say what it is, when we're trying to study the outside world, we call it science, objectifying things. But there's another way to approach that truth, and that's within us. Because the microcosm, which we are, and the macrocosm, which the universe is built on the same plane. Just like on the same plane, like the atom and the solar system. Okay, there's a nucleus, and we got these electrons going around. We have got the sun, we got the planets going around. So the Vedic teachers say that we can have various design different types of equipment to study the outside nature, but we can take another approach of developing our own internal equipment, so to say, our internal microscope or telescope, and the laboratory is our own mind, and the equipment is that concentrated mind. As the power of concentration develops, just like the power of magnification develops in a microscope, you look at the same thing through higher and higher powers of the microscope, and it reveals itself more and more and more. Likewise, through spiritual practice, as the power of subtle perception develops by the mind, power of concentration, then whatever we are seeing reveals itself to us in first through the gross eyes, we see the gross object, then as the power of concentration develops more, we see this subtle world of mental space, and then as it goes further, we ascend to what we call the knowledge space, Mahakasha, Chitakasha, Chidakasha. The physical space, the mental space, the knowledge space, and beyond all these three spaces is something which is our true nature, which is the Atman, which is pure consciousness. So sometimes people come and ask and say, have you seen God? Have you experienced Him? It's a very interesting question, because really every perception happens in and through that consciousness. In other words, here and now, I am seeing something. If that consciousness was not in me, like in a dead body, the eyes are there, the things are still there, that perception does not happen. The perception happens because of that consciousness there. So, trying to know God, Swami Vivekananda says somewhere, is trying to grind the already ground. Okay? You take some wheat and you want to make it into flour, you put it into a machine and make it into powder. After making it powder, you try to put it back into that machine and trying to grind it. It's not going to change anything. It's already ground into a powder form. So, trying to know God is trying to know something that is already known, in the sense that all knowing happens in and through that consciousness. But we are not aware of that process. We are just knowing the things, but we are not seeing the light through which that knowing is possible. In other words, in that analogy that we gave about this movie theater, you got this screen there, in the middle you have got this projector with the reel of a movie, and at the back you have got this lamp that the light shines through that film. So right in the beginning of the movie, when the reel is not running through, the light shines and you see a white big screen, and you're just waiting for something to happen. And then suddenly the reel begins to move and you see 10, 9, 8 in the old movie system, you had that type of thing. And so you looked at the numbers, and then suddenly these characters appeared and the images, and then they're moving, and you forget about the screen, you forget about the light there, your whole attention is on those shadows, and you see them and you enjoy them, and they have become alive. Within few minutes you forget that this is a movie. That world has become real to you. The characters are real, the drama is unfolding, the hero is there and the villain is there, you like it or you don't like it. So like this we forget the whole picture. At the end of the day, it's just some light, not even light, some shadows falling on the screen. There might be murder, there might be blood and all those things in the movie, but at the end of the movie, when the projector switches off, it's just clean white screen, nothing is there. But during the movie experience, that was real. So, our attention, because the mind is always projected outwards through the senses, is to see things. Things means defined names, shapes, forms, or sounds, whatever is there. It's not focused on the light which illumines those things. The light of the projector which runs through this film of the movie reel, which creates the shadows. We are not even seeing the light, our attention is on the shadow. That's how it is. We are somehow constituted. If I have a white board and in the center I put a circle and ask you to tell me what's there, how many people will say there's a white screen with a small dot there? Most people will say I can see the dot. They don't tell me about the white screen. Likewise, this consciousness is there, it is illuminating everything, but our attention is on the shadows, on the things. How do we revert that and say direct that attention to the light which illumines everything? So that requires a little bit of training, because naturally the mind and the senses are constituted to go outwards. In the Kathopanishad, Yamaraj is teaching Nachiketa. Nachiketa went to ask him about this question about death. Very interesting question in these current times. So, those who are familiar with the Upanishad, the third born Nachiketa, young boy, very young, asked, there is this question about death. When people die, he says, some people say he is, even after the death of the body. Others say he is not. It's all becomes zero. Astiti eke, nayam astiti cheke. What is the truth? You tell me. Of course, Yamaraj tried to put him off, dissuade him, was basically trying to test him whether this person was competent for this spiritual knowledge, and tested his spirit of renunciation and all those things. When he found him to be a very capable, competent student, then he opens up the spiritual truth, the Paravidya, the nature of the Atman. And therein he starts, look, the senses, the five senses in the mind are naturally disposed with this defect, he says, Vyatrinat, with this defect. What is it? Paranchikhani, going outwards all the time. And therefore he does not see the light or conscious inside, within him. Paranchikhani, Vyatrinat, Swayambhu, Tasmat Parang, therefore he sees outside things. Nantaratman, he does not see the Antaratman. Kaschid Dhira, some wise person. Wise here means we see this word Dhira used in the scriptures. It means somebody whose buddhi, power of discrimination, has awakened. So he is not just happy with these names and forms, he is beginning to ask that question. What is it that appears as this beautiful universe? Oh, myself, where has this all come out from? By which is it sustained? Where does it go? Those type of questions he begins to ask. And he doesn't do it out of idle curiosity, but that has become a real issue of conscience. So he puts his best time and effort and is ready to invest some energy to discover that truth. So Kaschit Hira Pratyagatmana Maikshat. Some wise person sees this indwelling self. So he experiences, not seeing here doesn't mean seeing through the eyes, experiences this indwelling self, the consciousness, the Atman. Avrikta Chakshu. How does he do it? Avrikta means with inverted senses. Previously his senses and mind was going out. Now he turns it around and towards himself. And what does it? Why does he do it? Because he wants to attain to this immortality, Amritatvamiksha. So today's talk is about the immortal nature of the Atman. Okay, that is a very pressing question about life and death. So we go back to that model of understanding and or conceptualizing the universe or existence in these 4 levels. First is this elemental space, Mahakasha. Everything right from a small atom to this galaxy are contained in that, names and forms, material things, physical universe. Behind this, finer than this, is something or subtler than this, which is called the mental space. Chit Akasha. Thoughts and ideas are the things that populate that space. And when our mind is a small whirlpool in that ocean or that river of that cosmic mind. That cosmic mind is called the Hiranyagarbha in technical language here. Our mind is a small part of it, and thoughts are flowing just like water is flowing in a river. It comes down, forms a part of a whirlpool and then goes out. Likewise, thoughts which we don't create. When we say, I thought that idea, it's not that we created that idea. That idea was flowing by and it became part of my attention and I saw it happening and said, oh, that was my thought. Actually, it was passing by. That thought was created by some other being, somebody who generated it. So lots of thoughts are going in and out. When you sit down and just watch, you see from where these ideas are bubbling in and, but like a torchlight, you lock your view onto one of them and it's passing through and said, oh, you think I am thinking that. So anyway, these thoughts are populating this, and there are lower thoughts and there are higher thoughts. So some depressing thoughts are there, some elevating thoughts are there. We get the one to which frequency we are tuned to. If your mind has come down, then all negative type of ideas are there and that drag you down, down, down. And if you inject some energy into it through your sadhana and elevate it, then uplifting ideas are there. Anyway, all this drama happens in the mental space. We are trying to understand what that mental space is constituted of. So, but beyond that is called the Chid Akasha, space of knowledge, in which it's not that pure consciousness of the Atman or Brahman there, but it's even finer than the mind of intelligence. It is actually, these 3 spaces are in nature, in time, space and causation, of names and forms. Whether it's a gross form like a stone or it's the form of Lord Brahma at the Brahmaloka, all are within name and form, in relativity. So, which is called within name and form or Maya. In scientific language it's called time, space and causation. All our experiences are within this framework. The reality is beyond time, space and causation. It's beyond names and forms. It is beyond Maya. And that experience there, which is pure consciousness, is labeled or defined by different names like the self, the Atman, or Nirvana, or self-realization or God realization. It's an actual experience. Now, we have got in our mind an expanded framework of what we were thinking. Without this spiritual knowledge, we thought we were a physical body with a mind and maybe some ego there and some consciousness. I do not know. Something is there because I feel it. I don't know it. I can't express it. We have, taking the help of the scriptures, expanded that, hopefully, to say that, yes, this gross body, gross plane, physical universe is very well known to me. There is a mental world, and I experience it. We have tried to understand it in different ways. There is a space of knowledge or intelligence out of which even the mental world comes. But the sages say that beyond that there is something called pure consciousness or Atman or the real man. So we've got two parts now. Anything within this time, space and causation, within Maya, within nature is phenomenal. It is changing. It's Jagat, that which is constantly being created, remains for a while and disappears. But so it's like the images that are on the screen. They appear and disappear. But you require a screen to see the movie. If you just projected the projector into the sky without a screen, you will not see anything. Light will just go. It has to fall on something and bounce back, and then we see. So behind all this change, there is something which is changeless. And that changeless being is our true nature. We are really that. So in spiritual struggle, spiritual sadhana, first thing we need is, using this knowledge, is to turn this thing upside down. We are not a physical body that I have a mind and I have got an ego and somewhere I have got a soul, and that soul has to be realized or God has to be brought in there or all those things. Really, it has to be turned around. We are that pure consciousness all the time. That has put on this causal body, the body of knowledge or intelligence, then it has put another body of the mind, then it has put another body which is the gross body, and then we put this other clothes and other things in there. Okay, so it has become embodied. But really, we are no body, because there is no body there. But in ignorance, we want to be somebody, and some label and some position and all those things. This is how we get really caught and we forget ourselves. So these three bodies and every all these descriptions and things that we tie ourselves is really within Maya, in this relative world. No matter how much we cover it or discover it, the Atman never changes. It is never born, it never dies. In ignorance, when it becomes identified with these bodies, causal, subtle or gross, it thinks it is born. And when the bodies fall off, it thinks it is dying. So in the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna was saying that I will be responsible for killing all my relatives and all cousins and all those people there, Sri Krishna says, you got it all wrong, my friend. He says, people are born and they die. That means the body is born and the body is dead. Body dies, just like somebody puts on a nice shirt, and when the shirt is old, worn out, you take it off. That much only. So the exact language in Sanskrit, Hindi, they will say, Dehe tyag diya hai. He has given up the body. He's passed away. Something was there. He's moved on, but he has given up the body. But in the Western language, you might say, how do they express it? He has given up the ghost. That means he is the body and the spirit was there. The spirit has gone. Is how we express ourselves depends on how we perceive ourselves or conceive ourselves to be. Anyway, the important thing is to anchor ourselves or remove our anchor, our sense of identity or locus or what I am, from this body idea or mind idea and put it in its rightful place as the Atman idea. That should be the rectification that will do. Then other things will begin to make sense. Otherwise you will think that I am this body and I have to go. So when I die, where do I go? Okay, body is left there. Where does the ocean go when the wave subsides? The ocean is everywhere. How can it go anywhere else? The Atman is all pervading. There is nowhere to go. But if we think we are a separate thing, then we say, when we die, we go to heaven, we go to this loka, that loka, and we are reborn and all those things. That is, the answers that are given there is there for those people within ignorance, so to say. The more enlightened way of saying is, there is one ocean, there are millions of waves, all right? The ocean doesn't have any boundaries, but we would like to define them. This is Indian Ocean, this Pacific Ocean, and this and that. and there are different waves. You are one wave, I am another wave. Some big waves, some small waves are there. Waves are moving and going. They come out of the ocean, they are sustained by the ocean, they merge into the ocean. Why does the ocean become waves? We can't even ask that question. But it doesn't make any difference to it. It might become a billion waves, it might be a no wave. Doesn't make any difference. The ocean says, I am having some fun, I am playing. From the ocean's perspective, it is a play. That's why it's used Leela. From the wave's perspective, my God, I am born, I am living, I am dying. Terrible. The wave is in ignorance, the ocean is enlightened. Which one would you like to be? Of course, the enlightened one. That means we have to identify ourselves with the ocean nature. So in the Nirvana Shatakam, Acharya Shankara tries to drill that idea in. Mind, buddhi, chit, ahankara, etc. I am not. Chidananda Rupo, Shivoham, Shivoham. I am of the nature of pure consciousness. I am Shiva, I am Shiva. So when we are chanting that mantra, behind that words and that verses should come this idea that these are different layers, bodies that we have put. We have to remove these coverings. And when all coverings are removed, then we feel our universal nature, the Atman. That's why in the Upanishads, they call this Atman the bridge to immortality. Amritasya Esha Setu. Amritasya means immortality. Esha means this, Setu means the bridge. The way to realize, to become immortal is to become identified with this Atman. There are two sides of us. One is this phenomenal world of phenomenal nature, which is all these bodies, including the ego, because the ego is a reflection of the sun in this body-mind consciousness. Shri Ramakrishna gives an example. If you put out a pot of water out in the sun, and it's not cloudy, all right, what do you see? A round, circular, shining image there. Suppose somebody had never looked up at the sky, looked on, he doesn't even know there's a sun up in the sky. So he sees a nice little sun. And when the water moves, the image moves, and he thinks, I'm moving also. What is that? Water is the mind and intellect. So in the waves, mind is in different forms. You say, I'm happy, I'm unhappy, I know, I don't know, I'm confused. All those changes are happening in the mind, but we appropriate that to ourselves and say, I am happy. We don't say, my mind is happy, my mind is unhappy, my mind knows, my mind does not. That would be the way to look at it. I am separate from it, but we become identified with it. Or we say, identified with this body. I was born 50 years ago, I am 70 years old, I am male, I am female, I am brown, I am black, I am white. These are the qualities of the body. But in ignorance, we appropriate that to ourselves, and then we think, I am this. Not only that, that's pretty bad. We make it worse, and we extend the tentacles of my ship to things outside there. Okay, so that's my car, my house, my family, my job, my money, my name, my fame, my position. And like this, we tie ourselves with thousands of things. So many ropes have really shackled us. And then we feel very comfortable. Okay, because I've got all these possessions, not knowing that we are possessed by these possessions. Just like ghosts possess us, like we are possessed by things. Because every time we reach out and possess something, we forfeit a small percentage, a degree of our freedom that we are. And we become controlled by those things. You see, you might get a little bit of sense of security in things. They are nice things, and I've got nice family and everything, nice country and everything. But we become weaker, because when I say we forfeit that freedom, now that person can control me. Any change that happens to that person now begins to affect me. My child is sick, my business is doing very well, whatever. Those are external changes happening where we don't have much control. But because of that attachment of my ship, that is now beginning to affect me. And my happiness and unhappiness begins to go up and down. And we become slaves to all these things in the world. How can you find freedom in slavery? So, what is the process? The process is to disconnect. So, we'll try to go back to that three-dimensional, three-level of conceptualization or the model. Here's the physical world, the mental world, the spiritual or the knowledge space, and the consciousness is there. We have said that in ignorance people think we are the physical body, we have some mind, we have some consciousness somewhere there, and says ego sense is there. What we are trying to say is, let's put it upside down. I am the consciousness that has become enclosed with the causal body, with the mental body, with the physical body, and not only that, now it has got tied to so many things. So, which is the permanent nature? Which is permanent? Not the body, not the mind, not even that knowledge. That consciousness is the permanent. Let us say, visualize in a space that we have got a hook there, and we put a rubber band, and we stretch it down. Okay? As we stretch down that round rubber, which was rubber band without any tension, because it was totally relaxed, no stress, no tension there. The moment we pull it down, it is under stress. Okay? And the more we pull it down, the more stress it becomes. And you get a long one, that's your eye. The more you pull it, the thicker it is. Okay? And then the bottom end which is where the pulling happens, that is your locus where we experience the thing. So when you bring it down to the body level, then it sees the physical world around. When it reverts a little bit and you go to sleep, the physical world is not seen. You are in this mental world and thoughts and ideas are coming and you are dreaming in there. And sometimes you go slightly deeper in the deep sleep, that's where, but we are not going back into the Atman nature. Then again we wake up and this physical world appears and we become engaged with this. And then again we tie ourselves to this. So the process would be to give up these connections, mentally disconnect all this. These connections are mental connections in there. Mental associations, mental identifications, mental ownership, mental doership. That fellow down at the bottom who is the embodied being who thinks I am so and so, the big biodata and CV and all those things are there, is really a non-entity, it's a changing entity. It's experienced now, but it's not a permanent thing. So it comes, it goes, like the waves appear and the waves disappear. Liberation means this I it reverts back into itself. So there's no I in Samadhi. What it is, it experiences itself. There's no mind to record that experience also. So you can't come out of that and tell I was this or that. It disappears. Shri Ramakrishna says it's like a salt doll that went into the sea to measure its depth. When it entered there, dissolved. Who is there to come and tell the depth? Likewise, this ego, when it's trying to go into Samadhi, when it goes there, when it comes back, it cannot give that, express what it experienced. Yes, it was so blissful. I had a sense of my infinity. It was vast. An approximate definition is infinite existence, infinite knowledge, infinite bliss. But that is just an approximate definition. That's the best you can do. And then we use big words like it's vast, it's endless, it's infinite, it's, you can't tell it's out of this world type of thing. Yes, we cannot express this in words, but we can experience it. So you see, Sri Ramakrishna himself is a wonderful model of what we're talking about. We see him as a person. Imagine you are in Dakshineshwar, you go and see him, he's sitting there, and then next moment he goes into Samadhi. His physical body is there, everyone is sitting down there, but he has lost all consciousness. His eyes don't see, he doesn't smell, hear. But you can see a beautiful smile on his face. Something nice he's experiencing. And when he comes down, the whole world dances back to him, then he begins to talk to people, and then tries to relate that experience. And some of those experiences are so beautiful and profound. So he says, Chidakasha, in that Chit Akasha, I have seen, when I went up there, Koti Brahmanda, millions of universes arising and falling like waves in the ocean. I do not know what your books say. He did not do all this study of the Upanishads and this and that and to quote like we do. He had the actual experiences. Imagine that profound experience where you go into that ocean of consciousness where not small things appear and disappear. Universes, billions of years in our time, appear and disappear just like waves in an ocean when you go in front of the Pacific Ocean and see. Imagine that profound experience, and that same mind can withstand that experience and come down and talk to people about and give ordinary people instructions on how to live the mind. They give a glimpse of what is possible. That higher self, the Atman, the conscious, is our real nature. We really are that. But in ignorance, we have become identified with this body-mind complex, and then to make that situation worse, one body is bad, a big problem, we replicate it, duplicate it, and before we know, we've got so many bodies and entangled, and then we are caught. But people feel very, very safe and secure then. Because this is changing. Birth, youth, mature age, old age, this body will fall off. But we don't die totally. 1/3 we die. Because that other two bodies are still remain. The idea is to die totally. That total disconnection with all the levels of the bodies is really the state of immortality. In ignorance, if we think we are the body, then we want to make this body live forever. So sometimes we see in our mythologies some great person who did great amount of tapasya, when he had the vision of Lord Brahma or Vishnu, when he comes to him, he says, I want to give you a boon. What's the boon? And he tries to ask for a boon where this body will remain forever. Ravana asked for it, and others asked for it. And somewhere some loophole or something would be there by which that body will be destroyed. So, but the real immortal nature, Atman, is already there. Whether we know or not, we are immortal as the Atman here and now. In ignorance, we think we are embodied. In ignorance, we think we are dying. When this ignorance disappears, we are what we are. No one can give us anything. All that is necessary is to remove this ignorance. Spiritual discipline, japa, meditation, karma yoga, bhakti yoga are various means by which we go beyond this ignorance and come to that knowledge of what we really are, our Atman nature. So, there is this beautiful verse which describes this Atman nature. The more we dwell on the Atman nature, the more that idea becomes alive. What is necessary through this type of discussions and reading the scriptures and meditating and contemplating is to infuse some life into that idea of that what we are as Atman. Right now it's something we have known, it's there through a reading of a book or scripture, but it is not alive to take us and force us to attend to it and make it real for us. So a little bit of meditation, morning and evening, the rest of the day, I've got so many work. That work is so real for us. The world is very real. That consciousness is not so real, even though it is a consciousness that gives reality to this world. It is that existence which appears as this existence of these names and forms. We are more focused on these limited expressions, not that infinite existence that we are. So, when we discuss these scriptures and experiences of those who have realized truth, our vision, our horizon expands. And we say that this human body or human being is only a tip of the iceberg. The physical existence is a very limited thing. We must not settle for that. Otherwise, we will sell ourselves very short of that wonderful possibility that is a human being is capable of achieving in this lifetime. Life should not be just eating, drinking, procreating and dying, but it should be a constant struggle to manifest or connect with our spiritual nature. And the process is also given. Do not entangle yourself unnecessarily with things of this world. Do not be mentally, if you have to do those things, do it in a detached way. Do not get attached to it. Otherwise, this rubber band will always be pulled down. And that's where the stress is. The more you pull it down, the more stress is there. So, letting go. The more you can let go, cut this, some of those things that are tying it down, it will, the grip of the world on the mind will loosen, and you will immediately feel a little bit of peace and relaxation or contentment or whatever, because these outside things are not dragging the mind down too much. So when one becomes very serious about having that experience, then you have to reorganize the environment that you are, the activities, so that whatever minimum is necessary for some food and clothes and shelter and all those things, that much time and effort is given to that. The rest of the time is to be given to the real purpose of why we are born, which is to discover ourselves. This body, physical, mental, and the causal one, are various forms of limitations, and they hide the true glory of our Atman nature. Now, whether we do it in one lifetime, 10 lifetimes, 100 lifetimes, we have all the time. But there is no rest on this side. And when we understand that thoroughly, then somebody says, why get knocked around in this world so much? If that's the main thing to be done, let's get that done here and now. That is the type of mental training or conditioning or education we need to put ourselves through, and then your direction is fixed to the north, that the purpose of life is to realize this beautiful Atman. The more we dwell about the nature of the Atman, the more attractive it becomes. The mind is very, very interesting. Its natural tendency is to go up, not down. Sri Ramakrishna gives an example of in Bengal, in the villages you'll find a lot of ponds are there. People go out fishing. So how they do it, they will take like a fishing line, fishing rod is there, okay, they will bend it, get a bamboo stick, they'll bend it there and hook it with something there, and then the little bit of string and the hook is put into the water. When the fish bites, this whatever is holding it down is released and the bamboo immediately is straightened. And he gives that example that the natural tendency of the bamboo is to be in the vertical upright position. But these various things that tie it down bend it under a lot of stress, okay, and that's how we are anchored to this world. But if you release it, it regains that position. This rubber band's natural status is to go back into its own natural zero stress state. But when we pull it down and try to hold it there, I must remain here, this is fun, it's enjoyable. That's how it is, isn't it? We think this world is real, the body is real, I must continue. Okay, so while the body is healthy, no problem. When it goes to 50, 70, various types of problems are there. The kidney is failing, the heart is blocked. But we think that this is the state to be, this is the. So we try to have dialysis or stents or this or that. Keep this body here because this is all that we think to be real. And I would like to come back again also, minus all the sufferings and all those things. And after some time maybe you understand that's not possible here to have only happiness without misery. So they imagine there's another place there called heaven, which only happy, happy, happy and no misery. Nothing exists here. The pendulum swings, happiness and misery, success and failure, victory and defeat, life and death. This is the part of the dualistic nature of this world. The waves will go up and down and up and down and up and down. And in that we come few times, 100 times, 1,000 times. What do we learn out of this? What is the purpose of coming and going? Initially in ignorance we think this is a place where we will enjoy. Enjoyment is the goal, we think. But later on when you mature a little bit, enjoyment is not possible here. Knowledge is the goal. We become wiser. So if I ask you the question, suppose somebody has come in this world 100 times. In various parts of the world, sometimes it's a white man, it's a black man, it's a brown man, whatever is there. male, female, different professions, this is collecting so much experiences. All those experiences are there to teach him something. Okay, so old people should have something to teach. If somebody came to you at the age of 18 and said, can you tell me 3 things out of your own personal experience? Don't quote anyone. That you can tell me as the tips for me. Your grandson comes. What can you tell out of your own experience? Most people will tell, this world is nothing. It looked very nice when I was young, but I know I'm going to go and nothing will go with me. But when they come back again, they forget that lesson and again restart. Maybe this time I'll do it more smartly and try to have happiness and all those things here. So what is that lesson we will learn if we have come into this world, sincerely tried to find happiness here, sincerely tried to find knowledge here, sincerely tried to live here forever, and we never succeeded in any of those attempts because death came and took everything away. So Swamiji says, the only lesson we learn out of all this knocking around the universe, this is all a humbug, nothing but a humbug. There is no happiness here, permanent. There is no absolute full knowledge here. There is no absolute existence here. Then why do we come again and again? Why do we still seek for those things here? Because our true nature is infinite existence, infinite knowledge, infinite bliss at the top level. That Atman is trying to express itself fully at the physical level. That's why we try to live here forever. That's why we try to be very happy here. That's why we try to have full knowledge here. That's why we are trying to have that freedom here, beauty here, purity here. But that is not possible. You will get a little bit of it. Every attempt will end up with a failure because the infinite cannot be manifested in finite things. Dhruvam adhruveshu na prarthayante. When Yamraj offered Nachiketa all these wonderful things, he says, don't ask about this death. It's very complicated, even gods don't understand this. But here, I'll give you a deal. You ask me anything you want. Live as long as you want. I'll make you the emperor of this world. You can have all these elephants and palaces and wives and money and everything you want. Just leave this question, it's very, very difficult. Basically, he was trying to tempt him and see, does he have the essential quality of renunciation, Thiaga, which is necessary for spiritual elimination. If the mind is still interested in this bhoga, enjoyment, it is not ready for the yoga part. So he is tempting him. And Nachiketa, young boy, Veera, his intelligence is very sharp. So he says, na vikte na tarpaniya manushe. Man is never satisfied through wealth only. You can get a few things, a means to an end. If I give you $1 billion, what will you use it? Most of it will be left behind, no matter how much you try to spend it. Then he says, you're trying to give me all these enjoyments or things that will give me sense enjoyments. That's also very bad, he says. He says, Sarve indriyani jaryanti teja. These sense organs are there. By too much enjoyment, these senses also lose their capacity of enjoying. Okay, I give you one rasgulla, little bit of ice cream, is very tasty first time. I give you 5, you say it's still good. I try to make you eat 10, you said that's very painful. This, how can the same thing which was enjoyable in the beginning is so painful in the end? Because the senses lose that capacity to enjoy. So, then he says, a wise person does not seek for permanent, something permanent in impermanent things. Dhruvam means which is eternal, permanent, top level. Adhruveshu, which is changing. He should not seek, it doesn't make no logical sense. How can you have something infinite in finite things? How can you have something permanent in impermanent things, transitory things? So when that awakening happens through many, many experiences, that every time I came and tried to manifest myself in this, that infinite existence, knowledge, bliss tried to manifest itself as infinite life, infinite knowledge, infinite enjoyment, infinite freedom here. Every time it failed because it was bound to fail. But now, those failures have given him that wisdom that while his seeking is good, Where he is seeking and how he is seeking, there's a problem there. So he says, it's not possible here. And that's where the U-turn starts. Okay, there's no mirage, there's no oasis, it's only in mirage there. So he doesn't drive down further into the desert. At some point he makes a U-turn and goes back. And when he goes back home, he wonders, scratches his head, why did I go? I never left. But in ignorance, I felt I left. The sun in the sky never came down to the earth in that pot of water. It was always there. In ignorance, it looked down and thought, I have gone there. And there can be one pot of water, there can be a billion pots of water. You can destroy them all, it doesn't make any difference to the real sun in the sky. We really are that sun in the sky. Out in front of us is this screen on which we throw our light, we see our image, and you say, how beautiful is that image? Initially we think that is our image, then we forget that I am different, we think the image alone is real. We are like all this, that character in Greek mythology, Narcissus. We look at ourselves in the mirror and how beautiful it is and how beautiful it is, and after some time we forget ourselves and we think that image is what I am, and that's all beauty. So likewise we have forgotten our Atman nature, this image which is this body and the mind and whatever it is there, we think we are this, and how we can make this beautiful, how we can make it complete, how we can make it perfect, that all attempt is around there. But nature covers limits. So inherently we feel that we are immortal. Inherently we feel, because that's our nature, we can't jump out of ourselves. Inherently we feel we are omniscient, omnipresent, and all those things are there. We try to make that happen in the body-mind level. So we are constantly trying to find knowledge everywhere. Constantly trying to make ourselves infinitely happy. Sometimes we think those things will give me happiness. Those things will give me what? So we have that inner freedom, but we're trying to find that express this freedom here itself. Not possible, because everything is a limitation there. So this is where we have this our problem. That out of ignorance of our infinite nature, we feel we are finite beings and we are trying to recover ourselves. And how do we do that? We think that getting those things from outside will add to me and make me complete. And therefore you see, we have that sense of lack of perfection or completeness, so we put things on ours, whether it's clothes or jewelry or hairstyle or this or that, because we think these things will make me complete or beautiful. Really, no matter how much we put, no way you'll be able to experience that infinite nature that we are, because it cannot be done at the material level. That is the one lesson that we'll have to learn first. And all this getting whacked around in this world is going to teach us that one lesson. Sometimes, because the skin is very thick, nice instruction and some teaching doesn't work. We get the blows, again we'll come back and we think repeated blows will wake up this soul. Then the lion realizes he's not a sheep, he's really a lion. But just simply some instruction doesn't work out. That's why life is a great teacher. Experience is a great teacher. Books and things cannot teach us unless that experience is there behind us. Maybe some people are old souls. They have come to this world many times and had many experiences. And this time, in young age, that knowledge clicks and they understand that's a hot plate. Don't touch it. Many times we have touched it before. That's a chili. Don't eat it. But no matter how much you tell a child, don't touch that. It's hot. Unless he touches it oneself and gets burnt, experience is the only teacher. So this is what we are trying to get. But experience through our actions, that experience should culminate in some wisdom. That's where we have to process our experiences. Every day we have some experiences. That experience must culminate in some wisdom about what's the purpose of life, what we are doing, why we are doing. So that processing is very, very important. Sri Ramakrishna says, once in a while one must go into solitude. Process why we are here, what we are doing. 1 day, 3 days, 5 days, 1 month, whatever is possible. And then realign the compass to the north of self-realization, God realization. Have a map, the scriptures. Try to make some conscious effort to walk in the right direction. Otherwise, we'll go round and round in the circle, in the jungle, thinking everything is all right, but we don't go anywhere. That's where scriptures help us. Once that is sorted out, then it should be time for action, walking the talk, so to say. Sadhana will come, practicing spiritual disciplines, japa, meditation. And if you have to work, make sure that you work in the spirit of non-attachment. Because the soul has to free itself from these entanglements. Connect all those things that are tying us there. Nothing belongs to us. We don't even belong to this world. This body even doesn't belong to us. We are all foreigners here. No one is a permanent resident. Forget about a citizenship in this world. Having that idea that this world is a big spaceship and we are traveling on it, this is not our home. We landed here, short term, we are going to get out. Don't try to make this into a beautiful heaven. Don't try to make this a permanent residentship, knowing that we come from somewhere else, far much more beautiful than this world. And always being mindful of that particular idea will prevent us from unnecessarily getting entangled in too many things, because this world is like the jackfruit sticky juice. Touch it before you know, it's all entangled in the hand. So the scriptures come and the teachers come and teach us the way to free ourselves. But we have to walk the talk. Maybe baby steps, but we have to make that effort. And now and then, the one who has created this universe comes and says, you take 1 step and I'll take 10 towards you. You do a little bit and I'll do the rest for you. That is where an incarnation of God comes. The power and the help that He comes gives His grace. We'll talk about those topics later. Today I wanted to help you through this talk flick over the conception of what we are, that we are not a physical mental being with an ego, but we are really a spiritual being that has become covered through these multiple body layers, and each layer puts some more thickness, and the light inside that is there shines less and less and less until it's like a 15-watt bulb, hardly lighting anything. We are that infinite sun. And how that awakening happens, when it happens, what's our experience, how beautiful it is, the more we contemplate about it, the more this mind will become attracted and say, I would like to have that. When that ignition happens, I would like to have that wonderful experience ourselves, then you'll find that it will lose taste about all this not so interesting things, and get attracted to that ideal of self-realization, of freedom. That change in the direction has to happen, and that happens through our own little effort and happens through the grace of God. So we'll carry on this. I had given you an exercise last time about sitting down anywhere and for 5 minutes or 2 minutes visualizing that idea, that vision of Shri Ramakrishna, that everything is pervaded with that consciousness. Do that twice at least a day. Somewhere, you might be sitting in the train or in the car, in your own quiet place, and say, my eyes see the various forms, but through the eye of understanding, knowledge, I see that behind the forms, whether it's the chair, the people, or the tile, or the sky, the birds, the animals, everything, an atom or this whole universe, the stars, everything is filled with that consciousness. The more we dwell on that, that idea becomes alive. And when that idea becomes alive, then we will begin to respond to it. Until that idea becomes real, our mind will not go towards that. That is a little bit of a psychology there. In the book Meditation in a Spiritual Life, in the introduction, we consider that to be a manual on spiritual life. Okay, Swami Yatishwaranandaji's. In the introduction, it's given 8 principles of spiritual life. The first one says, we respond to that which we consider to be real. Okay? If the world we consider to be real, then all our attention is going there. If we consider that spiritual reality, consciousness to be real, then our thoughts, words and deeds will begin to react and respond to that. How do we make that idea of that spiritual dimension more alive? Then you will find that naturally all your actions, your energy begins to gravitate towards that. We have to infuse our vitality and energy into that, make it a living idea, and that idea will then capture us, and then you will drop things which are not so important and put your attention and focus on this spiritual goal. We'll discuss this a little bit more in the next Sunday's class. Until then, keep safe, keep well, and we'll meet same time next Sunday. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.